This is a question that can be found on page 6. It carries over to page 7, and it's called a constructed response question. This is where you're going to actually have to type in, because you're doing it on the computer, an answer choice. Part A, it usually has 3 parts. Part A, then Part B will follow that, and Part C will follow that. But something that you need to know is that they always give you information on these questions. So, at the top, it says prokaryotic cells are generally much smaller than eukaryotic cells. So it's telling us that, right? It's telling us that. In the very first part, it wants us to identify a structural difference between prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells that is directly related to their difference in size. So what do they have? What does a eukaryotic cell have that makes it larger than a prokaryotic cell? And one of the main things that we can say is that eukaryotic cells have a nucleus and organelles, and prokaryotic cells do not. Please do not get bogged down in your grammar, how you want to phrase this, making it sound nice, because in this test, grammar is not going to be taken into account. Writing style is not taken into account. You just need to get the information down, and as long as it is correct, you're good. Less is more on this. Excuse me. If they're asking you to identify a structural difference, you can list one thing. If you start listing multiple things and you're not 100% sure, if you have everything correct and the last thing you write down is wrong, you get 0 points for this question. These are really important that you get these right. And because they are broken up into sections, you can earn points in Part A, Part B, and Part C separately. So even if you get A wrong, you can still get B correct. So just be really careful. Also, if you don't know an answer, you can make a guess. Make your best educated guess. If you have absolutely no idea what it's asking and you're about to write I don't know or IDK, please do not. Leave it blank instead of writing something ridiculous like that, because then it gets flagged as a non-answer as opposed to a 0. If you put anything in the box, if it's wrong, such as IDK, it gets scored as a 0, not as a non-response, and that does make a difference. Part B says, based on the structural difference, explain why. So now we're looking at why prokaryotic cells can be much smaller than eukaryotic cells. Well, if you have more things in a eukaryotic cell than you do in a prokaryotic cell, it should be common sense to you that the more stuff you have, the bigger the space has to be, right? If you want to put away 16 books into a bin as opposed to 3, which bin has to be bigger? So all we have to say is that eukaryotic cells have more parts and need to be bigger than prokaryotic cells. Notice I've answered both of these questions. Both of these questions would score a perfect, and both of them are only a sentence long. So again, we're not looking for quantity here, we're looking for quality. Turn it over, looking at C. Describe one similarity between the two cells that is independent of size. Do not get bogged down with this independent of size thing. Just go right to the one similarity between prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. And what you're going to hear us say throughout this course is focus on what you know and don't focus on what you don't know. So one similarity between the two, all cells have a cell membrane. So I'm going to write both eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells have a cell membrane. So you can see here I wrote one similarity, they both have a cell membrane. So you can say cell membrane, you could say cytoplasm, you could say genetic material. Sorry about that. Any of those things are going to work at this point. And this will give you a perfect score on this question, and it was 3 sentences long for all 3 parts.